Extramarital Horse. Written by Johnny Fist. It happened in a village sometime in the 18th century. A very delicate situation arose between Grigory Petrovich and Vasily Ivanovich. The thing was, Grigory Petrovich had a mare, a kind, gentle creature that loved apples and affection. Grigory Petrovich adored her. He was always with her, brushing her often and spending more time with her than with his own wife. In short, he loved that mare fiercely. And Vasily Ivanovich had a horse, a rebellious troublemaker. Vasily Ivanovich could never find anyone willing to buy such a rascal, and he didn't want to give him away for free, so he let the horse run along the fence during the day, and if the animal tried to jump it and bolt, Vasily ordered Tolik to whip the horse and leave him on water. Only this enraged the animal further. It became even more aggressive. People whispered that it had even bitten Vasily Ivanovich a couple of times when, in a drunken burst of affection, he tried to pet it. He even threatened to shoot it. But every time he sobered up, he forgot all about it. As you might guess, Grigory Petrovich and Vasily Ivanovich were neighbors. Otherwise, this story wouldn't have happened. One rainy night, when thunder and lightning swept across the sinful earth, everyone lay in their beds praying the storm wouldn't kill them. Times were such that anything could happen. Grigory Petrovich's mare slept peacefully in her stall, but Vasily Ivanovich's horse paced restlessly, making unpleasant noises. Still, no one was going to go out to him. Vasily cared more about his own hide than about that damned horse, useless as it was. By dawn, the weather cleared. The rain passed and the sun rose. Vasily Ivanovich and Tolik came outside to inspect the damage. When Tolik went into the barn, he quickly called Vasily. The horse was gone, no longer tied, only tracks leading out. On one hand, Vasily Ivanovich was delighted, thinking the devil himself had taken back his own creation. On the other hand, the devil might have left behind the body as proof, but no body was there. Just then Grigory Petrovich came out of his barn for his usual morning walk, not only with his mare, but also with Vasily's horse. And the horse walked calmly, not in its usual wild manner. Vasily couldn't believe his eyes. He climbed over the fence and demanded his horse back. Grigory returned it without argument, but asked him to tie it more securely in the future so it wouldn't come visiting again. Vasily took the horse back and ordered Tolik to whip it again. The next day the horse was as if replaced. It no longer jumped, ran, or played. It even let Vasily pet it. Vasily couldn't understand what had caused such a change. Could the storm have transformed the beast? Meanwhile, Grigory kept riding his mare. A few months later, he noticed that she walked slower and seemed to have gained weight. He ordered that she be fed less and walked more. Sometime later, one morning, when he came to the barn for their routine walk, he suddenly saw that the mare had given birth. His shock and bewilderment were enormous. She had shown no signs, and yet she produced a foal. Everyone had long forgotten about the stormy night incident with Vasily's horse. Grigory returned home and began thinking it over. Pouring vodka into the samovar to calm his racing heart, he took out his cards and began laying them out, trying to confirm which of his theories might be right. He began with the holiest one, Immaculate Conception. After all, he believed his beloved mare had been sent to him by the Lord, and this was his reward. The cards aligned, but knowing himself well, he didn't trust the first result and laid them out again and again. 2 more times they aligned. He drank more, paced, sat again. Then he proposed another possibility, that he himself was the father. His boundless affection and frequent physical closeness, intimate even, through the saddle, might have led to this. Again he laid out the cards. Again they aligned. He paled. He finished the samovar, stood, paced, sat, and laid out the cards again. They aligned. He refilled the samovar with trembling hands, drank more, laid out the cards. They aligned again. He could scarcely believe it. He leapt up and ran to the barn. The mare was licking the newborn. He examined the foal closely, trying to find features resembling his own, the face of the creator, Grigory Petrovich. Nothing. The foal looked nothing like him. He rushed back into the house and emptied the samovar. Drunk on his final idea, he was convinced he had no more theories left. He was the foal's father. The author notes that Grigory had been on a diet for 3 days at his wife's insistence, so he was more hungry than fed. And for a 58-year-old man, 2 samovars of vodka was nearly heroic. In such drunkenness, even the wildest idea felt true. He ran to his wife and confessed his unplanned infidelity, explaining it in all possible detail. She stared at him in silence. 2 thoughts battled in her mind. Either he had finally slipped into senile delirium, which she believed had been creeping up ever since he bought that mare, or he was simply monstrously drunk. Turning to the other side, she went back to sleep. Grigory ran again to the barn and gazed at the foal like his own son. He told no one else his theories and simply reveled in life. A few days later, Grigory took his mare and her extramarital child for a walk. At that moment, behind the fence, Vasili's horse was frolicking, while Vasili stood nearby, giving orders to Tolik. Suddenly, all 3 stopped what they were doing the moment they saw Grigory surrounded by the horses. Vasili looked closely at the foal, then at his horse, then again at the foal, then again at his horse. There was no doubt. It looked exactly like his horse as a youth. Tolik confirmed it. The foal was an exact copy of Vasili's fiery beast. Vasili asked Grigory where he got the foal. Overjoyed to share with someone, Grigory told him everything, even that he was the unexpected father, along with all his conclusions. But while Grigory had forgotten about the stormy night escape, Vasili had not. He put all the pieces together and declared that since his horse was the true parent, he was entitled to half the foal. Grigory couldn't believe someone would claim rights to his creation, insisting the foal looked more like him than like Vasili's horse. Tolik laughed. The resemblance was obvious to anyone but Grigory. Grigory appealed to the highest powers, explaining that the cards had aligned 8 times in a row. A strong argument, you might say, but useless with Vasili, who cared only about money, especially when something potentially valuable was involved. Grigory broke into hysterics, crying, falling to the ground, convulsing, trying to prove the foal was his. Vasili was already about to give up. He had never witnessed such absurdity. Then Grigory's wife intervened. She calmly came out of the house, smacked Grigory across the ear so hard he went deaf, took the foal's reins and with the words, "Oh, take it then!" handed it to Vasili. She dragged Grigory back inside by his other ear. Vasili and Tolik were left standing in shock. Even Vasili's horse stood calmly, as if understanding everything. For a week the foal ran around on Vasili's property with its biological father. Both were calm, and in a way Vasili even grew fond of them. Not fatherly fond, but in a practical sense. Grigory didn't leave the house all week. He lay in bed weeping. His wife brought him broth. He begged her to return his creation. Each time she dumped the broth on his head. This upset him even more. One night, having regained some strength, Grigory decided to steal back his foal. While his wife slept, he poured vodka into the samovar again and laid out the cards. 4 times they aligned, once they didn't, but he blamed that on nerves. After drinking, he crept to Vasili's barn under cover of darkness. He was ready for anything. Inside he found the foal. Tears filled his eyes. He wept, approached quietly, and embraced it. This startled the foal, which neighed, waking its father. The horse panicked, jumping and kicking as before. Tolik hadn't tied him lately because he had been so calm. But now, frightened for his child, the horse lashed out. Grigory dodged and tried to pull the foal away, but fate would not allow it. The horse kicked him in the head. Grigory gasped one last time and fell dead. The 2 horses calmed down and pressed against each other. In the morning, Tolik found Grigory's body and called Vasili, who summoned Grigory's wife. Seeing the scene, she simply said, "Serves him right," and walked away. The next day she buried Grigory and decided to get rid of the mare he had loved so much. She untied it, struck it with a stick, and told it to run far away. But the mare, unwilling to go far from familiar places, and her child, jumped the fence and ended up at Vasily's again. The old woman spat and went back inside. "Nothing but trouble from that mare!" Vasily, who 6 months earlier had wanted desperately to get rid of even one horse, now had 3. They lived with him, and everything would have been fine, except a year later the mare was pregnant again, and this time no one doubted the father. A pity about Grigory Petrovitch. He could have become a papa once more.